Hello, this is Dumont, and today I want to talk to you guys about an idea that I had for what I think would be a really good video game. Now, I just want to make it clear that to me, an idea is nothing special, okay? It's not special unless you make something out of it. It's kind of like an apology. You can apologize many times, but it doesn't really mean anything unless you make it special. This could be something like you promise yourself that you will never do it again, or you promise to be a better person and you actually take steps to make that a reality. So once again, talk is cheap, and that's all I'm going to do here. For right now, this is just talk, and hopefully that's what you're looking for, is just some conversation, and you'll find this interesting. Okay, so moving along, the actual game that I'm thinking about, there's all kinds of games out there, different types of genres, and it seems like the latest thing is to make as close as possible a video game almost like into a movie. So sometimes I'm like watching a movie with my dad on DVD, and we're looking at the trailer, and it almost looks like an actual movie, and sometimes we can't even tell. He's like, is that a movie or is that a video game? And I'm like, I think that's a video game, Dad, and it looks good. And he's asking me that because he's interested, but he doesn't play video games. So I'm like, I think that's a video game. And he's like, oh man. So anyway, it seems like it's going in that direction. Now that requires a lot of high technology, a high budget, a lot of special effects and stuff like that, a lot of eye candy, For me, I always liked low budget, the underdogs. So I like retro, That's why the games that I play are PS1, PS2, So going from that idea, the type of video game that I'm going to choose, what I want to do is a shooting game, which is basically it's a top view, or it could even be side view, and you're like in a spaceship or something, and you just go shoot, and it's very, very simple, arcade format, whatever, very simple game. I would choose that. The reason being is because, number one, the graphics would be very, very easy to do, and it wouldn't cost a whole lot of money to make and also to sell. That's very important to me for the creators to think about the buyers in that sense. It's probably easy to make a $200 game. Will it sell? That's probably the only reason why they wouldn't make a $200 game. Because of the selling part. But if it could sell, they probably would. They don't care how much it costs on your wallet. As long as it sells. You know what I mean? But I would try to cut the budget as much as possible so that it would be easier for the buyer to purchase. So that's one thing. The second thing is, because it's very simple in graphics and stuff, I think it's going to rely on a solid foundation, a solid gameplay. So I hate games where it looks beautiful and it looks fantastic, plays like crap. Controls are bad. The game itself is just not that fun or something. So to me, those are all bad things. So I'm going to do the exact polar opposite, which is the graphics and all that, not impressive, but make the gameplay solid as hell. Even a person that says, damn, that is an ugly game, they have to admit and go, it's really fun though. That's what I want to hear. And also, I like the style of the pixelated older games. I think it has its own style in itself, and I do enjoy that. So anyway, one of the things that I would also find it impressive is that the ability to expand the game. In other words, replay value is very, very important to me. If it has this awesome story, you play it once, and then now you know all the story, and you don't really want to play it again, to me, that beats the purpose of the game, I want replay value. So, to have replay value, I think it needs to have a very good, easy, medium, and hard setting. Okay? As you get better, you're going to want to play on different settings. And it should be clear. I think a lot of video games are not clear, but this one should be totally clear what's the difference between easy, medium, and hard? You know, it's just harder, but I can't tell what exactly it is. There seems to be more enemies. The enemies seem to be tougher. I don't know exactly how much tougher. You know, I seem to die faster. You know, this kind of thing. I'd like for a reason, you know, to be all mapped out, and then you could actually see all that. You know, where it tells you, and then maybe you could do it on off. You know, increase enemy numbers by double, on or off, you know, or maybe you could actually choose by triple, by quadruple. You could choose how much more you want to put in, you know, the and you know, just how much powerful their health is going to be, how many shots it's going to take to hurt them, you know, just things like that would be very interesting. I wouldn't do it to the point where it makes your character weaker. To me, that's not the way to go. I would make the enemy stronger rather than making the player's character weaker, because I don't like the feeling of being limited, and I don't think the player would like that too. So that's one of the things. Another thing I'm thinking is for replay value. Like for example, I was just playing Mega Man X4, and in Mega Man X4, you beat all the bosses, and then you could go back to the stages and, you know, look for things that you may have missed, look for power-ups and stuff like that. That's all fantastic. The problem is the bosses are not there after you beat them. And then towards the end of the game, you'll encounter the bosses one more time, all of them kind of like at once at a certain stage right before you face the final boss. I understand for story-wise that looks cooler, but it would have been so much better if you could face the bosses each time as well. You know, I think it's much funner and increases the replay value. Same with Castlevania. You know, once you defeat the bosses, that's it. You don't see them anymore. You know, it would be nice to be able to go back and you fight them again. You know, just for the fun of it. You know, just for the sheer challenge of it. So in a game where they let you go back, you know, where you save and you go back, you should be able to fight the bosses again. That should be an option in there. I don't think it should be mandatory, but it should definitely be an option. It would be annoying if it was mandatory, but then maybe there's an item that if you get this item, you're able to basically leave a stage anytime you want. You see, that would be a fantastic item, you know. And that's another thing, to have tons and tons of items. You know, I think that's a great thing. Another thing that one could probably learn is from like games like Rogue Trip is to have many ways to play the game. You know, overall, let's say this game is a shooting game, but it would be very, very nice to, you know, be able to focus on different aspects of the game. Like, I'm going to focus just on getting a lot of money, you know, or I'm going to focus on getting a lot of high scores, you know. So, and each one should give you different kind of benefits, you know. So high score will give you different benefits. Focusing on money gives you different benefits. Focusing on levels will give you different benefits, you know, level ups and stuff like that. So being able to play the game a different way gives you personality, you know. And so definitely, I'm talking about a shooting game that you can save and fight bosses and do all this. So it's already, I think, quite interesting. And of course, even though it's a shooting game, I think you should have different character selects. A lot of shooting games did not have that. They only had player 1, player 2. Later on, like R-Type, you know, the newer versions of R-Type let you select a whole bunch of different types of crafts, or let you go collect them and stuff. So that's, I think, very cool. And to go further into that, I think it would be awesome if you could purchase a memory card, not an entire game, just a memory card. And this memory card would have different crafts that isn't normally in the game that you can get. Maybe perhaps it even has bosses in there or special items that you could just purchase the memory card, you know, $5, $10 instead of buying an entirely new game. And just spending that much allows you to have a different experience. So this is my idea for an awesome video game.